So whenever you actually want to buy something, it's always like a little bit tricky, especially when it comes to cars, because there are several ways to calculate exactly how much car you can afford, and there are several different results. You know, some ways allow you to buy a car that costs a lot of money because you're borrowing money. Some ways say, hey, you can't buy a car that you actually want. The only car you can buy is this one. Although you don't like it, it's the only one you can afford. So in this video right here, I'm not going to tell you exactly my way per se first, but I am going to give you 3 ways to actually calculate and justify buying a car, a reasonably responsible way to actually do it. And then at the end, number 3 is going to be the way that I go about buying a car myself. So as always, guys, do me a favor, smash the like button on top of that. Also, subscribe. It's free and it helps a ton with the channel. Now, number 1 is going to be Whiteboard Marko ways. If you look up on YouTube, how much car can you afford, Marko, you will find a way that Marko spoke about. He did not invent it, but his video has a lot of views. Thus now, everyone associates that rule with Marko. So the entire rule is very simple to actually understand, and it's called the 24-10 rule. Now, the idea is you're putting down 20% a down payment for this car. On top of that, you are saying, I'm going to pay it off in 4 years instead of the average 5 years. I've seen car notes for 7 years now, which to me sounds absolutely insane. But 4 years, which equals around 48 months or so. And on top of that, you're saying this car is not going to be more than 10% of my monthly income as far as, for example, the payments. So I did the math. And I ran some numbers. So let's say, for example, you make around $3,000 a month. Your budget is around $300 a month. And on top of that, you're going to be borrowing this money for the car at around 5%. The answer is you can buy a car with a value of around $16,000. You put in around $3,200 and you get to have a payment around $299 all the way up there every single month. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Because you're saying, well, Tommy, I get to buy a car. I'm only paying 10% of my income. On top of that, I'm paying off a year early. The answer is, whenever people say, I can't afford to pay cash for a car, and I've seen people do this with Marko, because Marko said, I made a video how to buy a car for cash. People said they couldn't afford it. So I'm making a video about how to buy a car responsibly, for example, with financing, all right? The answer is, guys, if you can afford to pay down a down payment of 20% on a $16,000 vehicle, even a $50,000 vehicle, even a $10,000 vehicle, the answer is you can afford to buy a car in cash. Because basically, putting down $3,200 for a car, $3,000 for a car, like actual cash you actually have, is a lot of money to buy a decent runnable vehicle for like next 2-3 years. All right, Honda, Toyota, Mazda, those cars can run for a long time, on average 200 to 250,000 miles. If you buy one with 100k miles, 150k miles, you still have 50 to 100 more thousand miles to actually go. Now, I've seen tragedies, people that say, all right, you're telling me I just got to put down 20%, right? So what if I just go ahead and I basically get a loan for that 20% and I finance it and I basically just pay that off little by little too? The answer is no, you just finance the whole thing, all right? It's a terrible idea. I don't like this way at all. I hate this 24-10 rule. It's ridiculous. And in reality, I don't like it because it basically just puts you in debt to buy something that's going to be basically depreciating. And the best thing you can do is just grab the 20% of the money that you actually have right now and just buy a car for cash, right? That is the best idea. Now, number 2 is going to be the Dave Ramsey method. Now, by the way, I'm doing the same example here. I'm assuming your income is $3,000. By the way, you can use a loan calculator online. I'm not a genius. I just did the math beforehand and I'm telling you the math now, and I have good memory, so I have every number in my head in a sense. And I also have my phone to kind of like guide me on what I have to say for this video. So don't think I'm a genius. I'm just I just know what I'm saying, all right? So overall, the Dave Ramsey method is pretty simple, and it actually gives you even a bigger budget. Because if you make $3,000 per month, assuming that is, for example, net, well, times 12, that's around, for example, $36,000 every single year in income, right? Now, Dave Ramsey says a simple rule: don't spend more than half your annual income on cars. That is actually very important because a lot of people make the stupid decision of buying a $50,000 Ford, like truck or whatever, F-150 for like $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 when they only make $30,000, $40,000, right? So that's just ridiculous. You can't afford it. Just don't do it. So in this case, half of $36,000 is obviously $18,000. Now you might say, well, I have a bigger budget. Yeah, you do have a bigger budget, but it also means you have to save up all that money in cash. Because Dave Ramsey says, no borrowing money, just cash. All right, so then that puts you in I have to save half my income to buy a car. You know, that puts it into perspective because you probably don't want to spend half your income on 4 wheels that are going to be deteriorating every single year, most likely, right? So the answer is, for me personally, it's a good rule, but you do have to be patient enough to actually save up that much money to actually get to the max. By the way, when Dave says no more than half your income, it doesn't mean you got to buy a car that's half your income. Obviously, you can buy a car that's a third of your income or a lot, or like a fourth of your income. That's also a possibility, right? So you don't have to go all the way to the max on this budget whatsoever, right? Now, what is a Tommy Bryson way? And by the way, I know the guy. That's because it's me, right? I'm Tommy Bryson. Now, Tommy Bryson basically says, all right, by the way, I am the most probably conservative, strictest young guy that's boring here on YouTube because for some reason, it's just the way I'm set up, all right? I'm pessimistic in the sense of like, I'm always assuming things can go wrong, so I always plan for those things. And this way, when things do go wrong, I'm solid. If they don't go wrong, I'm even better. But the idea is very simple. The car you buy is a car you can afford to pay for in cash that does not leave you broke. And here's what I mean. I know people that they basically grab all their savings, they buy a car, and they have $0 left. And now they have an emergency and they don't have any money left whatsoever to fix that emergency. That's terrible. That's not good. So my rule is, hey, the best car to buy is a car you can afford to pay for in cash that leaves money in your account for emergencies, whether it's $500 to $1,000, $500 minimum, right? That's the idea. So this way you buy a car, all of a sudden something pops up, you got $500 to $1,000 to actually fix it. Whether you want to go further and say, I want 1 month of my expenses or 2-3 months, that's fine if you want to, but it's not really necessary per se because you're buying in cash and you also don't have to spend money on a car payment every single month. Now, on top of that, here's the problem with this little rule of mine. And I actually found a way to put a stop to this people trying to figure out a loophole around my rule, right? Because the rule says the best car to buy is a car you can afford to pay for in cash and you still have some money left over for emergencies. Now, let's say, for example, you are a really good saver. And for the past 5-7 years, you've been saving up money. And now you have, for example, a whopping $40,000 saved up, or maybe even $30,000 saved up. You're like, yo, I'm going to grab all this money. I'm going to keep $1,000. I'm going to spend $29,000 on a car that I actually like, and boom, I figured out a way to buy an expensive car. The answer is no, that is dumb. You don't want to do that. Because my other addition to my rule is that the car cannot be more than 10% of your net worth. Now, not in the sense that if you have a $0 net worth, obviously you pay cash, the car leaves you some room for money. But I'm saying for people out there that want to buy something expensive, the rule is no more than 10% of your net worth. Meaning, for example, to buy a $30,000 car, you need to have a net worth of $300,000. To buy a $50,000 car, you have a net worth of $500,000. To buy, for example, a $15,000 car, $150K. My idea is you don't need to buy any car out there for more than $5,000 to $8,000. Now, that's the only way I would refute, for example, saying, hey, you got to use the net worth part of this rule. If you're buying a car for less than 5K, you don't have to use the net worth part of this rule because in reality, it's an inexpensive car. You're paying cash for it. If you buy a reliable vehicle like I was gonna say Tesla. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry about that. Not reliable. But I was gonna. You have Toyotas, you have Mazdas, you have Hondas. You know those cars can run for 200,000 miles, 250,000 miles. And in reality, you buy one of those cars with 100K miles. Like 150,000 miles, you still have like 5-6 years. Now, the money that you would have spent, for example, on car payments, I am not going to tell you to save that money up to buy the car you want. Not if you don't have any investments, not if you don't have a home paid off, not if you have a fully blown emergency account. The answer is during that time, use the money you would have used in a car payment, not to save for a fancier car, but instead to get your life together as far as finances. Okay, so if you have debt, pay off the debt. If you have no emergency fund, fully fund an emergency account. If you have no investment, start investing. If you have no home, start saving up for a down payment. If your car breaks down, you pause everything, you save some more money up, you know, and you just basically pay the repair. I've seen a video, honestly, all right? Look this up on YouTube. A guy bought a Volvo, and he told his dad he was going to get 1 million miles out of that car. 30 years later, 1 engine, 2 transmissions later, he gets, for example, 1,000,000 miles on that car. My point is, guys, for the most part, if I'm being real, I'm being honest with you guys, a lot of us, we just want things, but we don't really need things. Cars can last a very long time. You know, the things that break, they can be repaired. If you say, Tommy, well, I have this car, it's worth like 5K, the repair is $3,000. Well, if that repair is going to get you another 100,000 miles off of it, or 50K miles off of it, it's probably worth it, all right? So consider that too. And consider also, one thing I got to learn how to do as a guy, personally, I got to learn how to fix a car. Like, you know, it's just like one of those things, like just like fix regular things, like do oil changes, you know, have like drain all the liquids and so on. Like those things which are very basic, which are on YouTube for free. I got to learn how to do all those things, okay? Because those are very basic things. And you should know your way around a car in some way. It's not that crazy. It's not that complicated, all right? Now, you know, the car I'm looking at right now is between a Toyota, a Honda, or a Mazda. You know, that's my idea right now. I'm looking for reliability, not for something that's going to burn my money. Now, by the way, there does come a point where, let's say if you have a net worth of 500K, you've done all the good stuff. If you want to buy a $50,000 car in cash, you can. You know, you can afford to have that money burn, you know, but once you get to that point. In the meantime, don't start doing things you know for a fact you're going to regret. That's the idea. But guys, thanks for watching this video. As always, like, subscribe, hit the bell to notify. And just for fun here, made it all the way to the end of this video. Well, comment down below and let me know exactly what is your dream car. You know, for me, honestly, it's probably like a Porsche Cayenne. Like, I've always wanted one of those cars since I was like around 19. I was in college and I saw that first one. You know, Porsche Cayenne, I just love those cars. And by the way, not expensive. You can find one for like 30K, but it also comes along with a lot of maintenance, all right? So I'm not gonna buy one of those cars with all that maintenance when I don't feel like I'm ready to start burning money away. That's just me personally. But comment down below exactly what's your dream car. All right, and if you're gonna go crazy, like I want a Bugatti, I want to, you know, how about I change the question to what is your reasonably good dream car that you can afford at a certain point? Because to buy $1,000,000 car or $500,000 car, like you need to have a $5 million net worth, or like a $10 million net worth. But you know those are crazy numbers. You can do it probably, but the answer is like more reasonable. Okay, what's your dream car? All right. See you guys later. Thanks for watching. Another banger here. My face is here. As always, subscribe. Peace out.